Good afternoon, everyone. And before I announce that some of the dignitaries are here today, I'd like to start off with our honor guard. We give them a round of applause. And I ask that we just put our hand over our heart and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will ask that we have a moment of silence for all of our first responders, all of our military who have lost their lives in the line of duty. Thank you again. I'm happy to have our Lieutenant Governor, Kathy Hochul, here with us today, and for a very, very special recognition of our department. But let me start off by just saying that we have our State Senator, Shelley Mayer, is here with us today. Good to see State Senator Shelley Mayer, the Majority Leader of the City Council. Mike Stavantino is here. We have Chuck Lesnick, who does not have to represent the Governor today because we have the Governor here, so we're good. And of course, we have our PBA President Keith Olson, who's with us. Keith, good to see you here again. The Governor's here with us. Call you Governor, Lieutenant Governor, but we'll call it Governor, right? To really, for a very, very special award. It's a New York State Police Officer of the Year award ceremony, and this is huge for our city. The officers that you see here, Captain Lane, Detective Marr, Detective Lepseltzer, Officers Bennett, Moore, and Rita. You'll hear more about what happened on that night and why they were receiving that award, but I will tell you one thing. As mayor of this city, I could not have been more proud of what I saw that night, because I was called pretty rapidly to the scene, and what I walked into and what I saw that day was just a mixture of courageous heroism, it was and compassion, all three at the same time, especially when you see the individual who actually attempted to hurt these police officers on the floor, and this very same department is performing life-saving procedures on him in order to keep him alive. And he is alive today. That is a great department. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you the Executive Deputy and Commissioner and Chair of the Governor's Police Officer of the Year Committee, and have him come up to say a few words. But before I do that, Commissioner, the Senate Democratic Leader is here, Andrew Steele Cousins. Good to see you, Senator. And now I'm going to ask Commissioner Michael Green to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. I was going to ask everyone to be seated, but I see that you beat me to that, so thank you. Mayor, thank you very much both for hosting us here today and for your kind remarks. I do want to recognize our Lieutenant Governor and thank her. She's been a tireless supporter of both law enforcement and our work at DCJS and the work of the Governor's Committee, and we appreciate your efforts. Thank you. And Commissioner Gardner, thank you for hosting us as well. I'm sure you're incredibly proud of the work that your officers did, and deservedly so. So congratulations on that, and thank you for hosting us today. The Governor's Police Officer of the Year Award was first presented in 1984. And it's presented to recognize either a single police officer or a team of officers for an exceptional act of valor. The Division of Criminal Justice Services coordinates the work of the Selection Committee. The Selection Committee reviews nominations submitted each year from law enforcement agencies across New York State. Each year, the committee has a difficult decision to make. And I'd like to recognize committee members today who've joined us. First, we have the Superintendent of the New York State Police, George Beach. We have the Melbourne Police Chief, John Aresta, who represents the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police. Thank you. We have Richard Wells with us from the Police Conference of New York. And we have Bing Marquis, who represents the State Conference of PBAs. Thank you. And I can tell you that those aren't just words that we say when we say the committee had a difficult decision, because we did have very deserving nominations from all across New York State. You'll hear the names of those nominated shortly. And there was just outstanding police work described in every one of those nominations. And in spite of the number of nominations and the quality of those nominations, the committee was unanimous in selecting this incident and this team of police officers. And I know I speak for everyone in the committee in saying that this incident represented the very best of what all of us expect and want in police work. So congratulations. Now, including today's honorees, and they are Captain Andrew Lane, Detective Kayla Marr, Detective Dawn Lebzelter, and Officers Thomas Bennett, Brendan Moore, and Vincent Rita. We have a total of 117 officers from 19 agencies across New York State who have received this award. In some ways, though, even though they're joining a total of 117 officers, this team is unique. First of all, they are the first team or first representatives from the Yonkers Police Department to be recognized with this award. Together, they have over 50 years of combined experience in law enforcement. And that ranges from a 33-year veteran, and I won't name any names, to an officer who was on the force 2 years at the time this happened. Yonkers is only the second agency from Westchester County to have an officer honored with this award. The other in Mount Vernon, who had individual recipients in both 1993 and 2008. As I indicated, there were many other nominees, and the nominees that made it to the committee were 14 other officers from 7 other agencies. All of those officers will receive a certificate of exceptional valor from Governor Cuomo. And those officers are Lieutenant Anthony Filipski from the Cheektowaga Police Department, Officer Daniel McDade from the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Police Department, Detective Miosotis Familia from the New York City Police Department, Trooper Joel R. Davis from the New York State Police, Officer David Caprietto from the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority Police Department, Lieutenant Miriam Rubio, Sergeant Hector Martinez, Sergeant Victor Talamini, Officer Jack Collins, Officer Anthony Manfredi, Officer Drew Preston, Officer Sean Gallagher, Officer Anthony Estevez from the Port Authority Police Department, and Deputy Thomas Munzert from the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. Some of those officers were nominated for work that they did in events which took place in which they lost their lives. I do want to now introduce our Lieutenant Governor. As I indicated, she's been a great supporter not only of this event, coming every year to make this presentation, but also our Police Officer Memorial and the other work that we do at DCJS to support law enforcement across the state. Kathy Hochul was elected our Lieutenant Governor in 2014. Prior to that role, she served as an elected official at both the federal and local levels. She was a member of Congress in New York's 26th Congressional District, served as the Erie County Clerk, and began her career in public office on her local town board. Lieutenant Governor Hochul chairs the governor's statewide regional economic development councils, which have reinvented economic development by empowering local leaders in business and academia. This strategy has brought more jobs to New York than ever before. Lieutenant Governor Hochul also chairs the New York State Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission to celebrate the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote, and co-chairs the Heroin and Opioid Abuse Task Force to combat the addiction epidemic. Given the current administration in Washington, Lieutenant Governor Hochul uses her Capitol Hill experience as a congresswoman and as legal counsel to Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan to serve as Governor Cuomo's head liaison to New York's federal representatives. She continues to advocate on behalf of all New Yorkers, championing campaigns for many of the governor's signature legislation, from raising the minimum wage to making college affordable for families. And she prioritizes being the governor's eyes and ears on the ground as she visits all 62 counties every year in office. Ladies and gentlemen, the 77th Lieutenant Governor of the State of New York, Kathy Hochul.
Good afternoon. Today we celebrate courage, and I could not be more delighted to be here joined by so many esteemed elected officials, particularly my colleagues in the Senate, our leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins, who I see is there. Thank you for joining us today. Her colleague, my friend Shelley Mayer, Senator. Also, I noticed Gary Pretlow has joined us, Assembly member, and our Majority Leader of the City Council, Michael Sabatino. So thank you very much. If there's any other electeds, I'm sorry I missed you. I also wanted to thank our mayor for his dedication to his job, and you can see it in his face as he described what it was like to be there on that night just over a year ago and how it affected him so deeply and just made him even more proud to be an elected official in this great community. So Mayor, I thank you for your incredible service as well. And to the individuals involved from the state of New York, Commissioner Michael Green, for your leadership of an incredible organization, but also your involvement in the selection committee, and Superintendent Beach is here as well, so I thank them for joining us. But it's not about us. It's an opportunity to celebrate, as I mentioned, courage. Courage takes many forms, but on a particular night, just over a year ago, an early fall evening, as dusk was just completing its journey into the night, 8 o'clock at night, individuals using their training and their instincts became aware of a suspicious vehicle. Officers Marr and Leb Zelter were dispatched to report a suspicious vehicle parked in an intersection in a populated area. It wasn't a remote area, it was an area where civilians were at risk, certainly factoring into their equation of approaching this car. They spoke with an individual in the front seat, but a shocking development occurred. An individual in the back seat pulled out a gun, a .40 caliber bullet at point blank range, and shot Officer Marr in the face. I cannot imagine the shock that went through her system, realizing that she had been shot in the face by a bullet that close, wondering if she was going to live or die, wondering if she's going to see her family again, her mother, who's with us here today. In that split second, her fate was unknown. And had it not been for the bravery of her colleagues, where their training and instincts intersected, we might have had a completely different outcome. She was simply doing her job, but fell victim to someone who had no respect for the individuals who responded to that call, no respect for men and women in uniform for what they face every single day. Officer Leb Zelter returned the fire along with fellow officers, Rita, Moore, and Bennett, who had arrived on the scene just split seconds later. Again, God was not looking out for these individuals on that day. I believe that. The other second vehicle could have been anywhere. They arrived within seconds. Officer Moore spotted one suspect fleeing the vehicle on foot and alerted Officer Bennett, who safely took the man into custody while bullets were being fired in their general direction. Officer Leb Zelter, meanwhile, calmly appraised other law enforcement arriving on the scene of the gunman's location to avoid a crossfire situation. But we had an officer down. They needed a plan. Officer Moore devised a plan to reach Officer Marr, who had taken refuge underneath the vehicle. Officer Bennett laid down suppression fire that enabled Officer Moore to reach Officer Marr and pull her to safety. Now, these all sound like cold, detached words. We're talking about entering a situation where the bullets are flying, and you know that any one of those bullets could strike you in a second and destroy lives, destroy a family that was waiting at home, perhaps at dinner. But they had the courage that many of us just cannot fathom, a courage that perhaps to you, you'll simply say, we're doing our jobs. We are in awe of the jobs you do, absolutely in awe of your willingness to put your life on the line and enter a situation like that where you literally could have been struck by a random bullet and been gone like that. They reached Officer Marr and pulled her to safety. Officer Retta also approached the vehicle to provide emergency treatment to slow the bleeding until she was brought to the hospital. A year later, she is still recovering from those wounds. After nearly 10 minutes of sporadic gunfire, which must have seemed like an eternity, Captain Lane approached the vehicle and took the assailant into custody without further incident. They later recovered a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun on the ground near the driver's seat, in addition to a large, illegal high-capacity magazine, another device which could have been lethal to the people in that community. Earlier this year, that individual, who again, as you heard from the mayor, was treated on the scene by the same people who this individual had intended to be his victims. They turned around and saved his life as well. Let those words sink in. They had just seen someone try to kill their colleague and to kill them, and they responded by saving his life. That's courage. That's courage. And that individual was indicted and arraigned on numerous charges, including 4 attempted aggravated murder charges. Okay. Let that sink in, because I still can't comprehend what it had to be like in those moments. And as someone who wakes up every day having slept under the security of knowing that our law enforcement's out there in the streets protecting us every day, I come here with a heart full of gratitude from 20 million people in the state of New York who sent me here today to honor the 2018 Officers of the Year. And I know every one of you is going to say, we're just doing our jobs, because I've heard it before. I've had the honor of doing this every year I've been Lieutenant Governor, and it is a high honor for me. But I want you to know, particularly in a time when people are questioning our law enforcement, I want you to tell you we are in awe of what you do. We respect you. We honor your service to protect the citizens that you did that night and every single day that you and your colleagues are on duty. I want to say that not only have you inspired me, but I believe when your story is told, and it needs to be told on the front page of the newspapers, because young people need to know what courage looks like. And you don't know that you're not going to be inspiring some young person who heard that story, says, I want to be just like them when I grow up. You are role models. Simply by doing your job, putting on a uniform, you are role models to the rest of the community. And I believe that is also a positive outgrowth of what you've accomplished on that night and why we honor you today. We want to amplify your story, the positive stories that go on every single day. So I congratulate you, but also I know you would have done this anyhow, because that's the kind of people that are drawn to put on a uniform and protect us. Because everyone has that call to serve, whether it's in the military, whether it's civilian force, whether it's public service, whether it's in law enforcement. Everyone has that call. But how few respond to that call? I'm looking at individuals who did, and thank God they did, and they were there on that night. So I'm simply here to say thank you on behalf of Governor Cuomo, myself, and the people of the state of New York. Thank you for telling us and teaching us what courage is, something that we need to carry with ourselves as we go on through our daily lives. And each one of us, every chance you get, needs to show appreciation to the individuals here, to Commissioner Gardner. I thank you for your service in making a community that's already spectacular even better, because it is much safer than it was even before your term and this mayor's term. Down 40%, crime is down 40%. It didn't happen by wishing it so. It happened because of individuals who've charted a course and have led by example and have recruited the right kind of individuals, high caliber individuals. And that is why the people of Yonkers sleep safer every single night. And for that, I thank you.
So Captain Lane, if we can have you come up first. Detective Marr.
Everyone together?
Detective Abzelter. Officer Bennett. Officer Moore. Officer Rita. And if we can have all the award winners come up, I just want to get one photo with everybody.
Yeah. You want to go in front of the podium?
Yeah, probably better.
Can we have the elected officials join us?
If I can ask everyone to have their seats for just a moment. We are going to have some remarks from our Police Commissioner, Commissioner Gardner, to close our event. Commissioner?
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon. It is a distinct honor and privilege for us to receive the Governor's Police Officer of the Year Award. And as Commissioner Green mentioned, this is the first time that any member of the Yonkers Police Department has received this most prestigious award. So on behalf of our honorees and the entire Yonkers Police Department, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Governor Cuomo, our Lieutenant Governor, the committee, DCJS, and all those involved in recognizing our officers here this afternoon. This shooting was one of the most traumatic incidents that I've experienced in my nearly 40-year career with the department. And these officers, while under extreme duress, displayed extraordinary bravery and professionalism as they risked their own personal safety to come to the aid of a fellow officer. They're truly deserving of this recognition, and I couldn't be more proud of them. I'd also just like to take a moment to especially thank Lieutenant Governor Hochul, Superintendent Beach, Commissioners Green and Wood, Chiefs Aresta and Wells, and all the staff to take time out of your busy schedule to come here today and present these awards, and for your continued support of law enforcement here in the state of New York. We deeply appreciate it. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you again, and may God bless all of you and always keep you safe. Thank you.